From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. In the second Trump administration, we've seen deportations surge and some very visible operations by ICE agents, including in Colorado. One argument, maybe an assumption, for deportations goes something like this: it will help American workers. Arresting and deporting workers who are in the country without legal status clears up space on the payroll for jobs that can go to American citizens instead. A new study by a University of Colorado economist calls that assumption into question. It looked at what happens to companies who lose workers without legal status due to immigration enforcement. The study found that not only did those companies lose the workers targeted by ICE, but they also had fewer jobs available for workers who are citizens, because those companies affected by raids tended to contract, which actually means fewer job opportunities for U.S.-born workers. The CU study has generated national interest, including pushback from the White House, which we'll get to in a minute. Chloe East, the economist who led the study at CU, joined me to talk about the research.
We turned to a national survey that is done by the Census Bureau and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is where the monthly unemployment rate comes from. So we use the current population survey to look at the employment rates of immigrants and U.S.-born workers, especially in sectors that have historically relied on immigrant labor. This includes agriculture, construction, manufacturing, and wholesale. And what we find overall is that ICE activity is hurting the labor market, both because of fewer immigrant workers in the labor market, but also because of fewer job opportunities for U.S.-born workers.
Your study also talks about a chilling effect of these raids. Immigrants without legal status stayed home and laid low rather than showing up for work. Give us a sense of how that affected employers.
Because our focus is really on what happens to immigrants who remain in the U.S., we are identifying what we call a chilling effect, which is the effect on people who are not themselves directly arrested, detained, or deported, but might be fearful of leaving their homes and going to work or going to shop at the grocery store if they hear that ICE is in their community. And what we actually show is that this chilling effect has an even larger impact on immigrants' employment than the direct ICE activity itself.
Okay. And what kind of numbers did you see in, cities in the U.S. that experienced more ICE arrests? What did you find?
Overall, for about every 1,200 more ICE arrests, there are 7,500 fewer undocumented immigrants working in that local area.
Chloe, your study looked at the concept of people who work in immigrant-dependent jobs that were also affected by immigration enforcement. What's an example of how someone in an immigrant-dependent position might see their job affected, even if they themselves are not an immigrant?
So if you think about a construction company who's trying to decide whether or not to build a new home, if they're having a really hard time finding construction site laborers because immigrants are staying home out of fear of interacting with ICE, they are much more likely to decide that home is not worth building because they're having a hard time finding workers to do the job. And so they're going to hire fewer electricians, fewer roofers, fewer architects, and all of those are jobs that are typically taken by U.S.-born workers.
There have been immigration raids under previous presidents. What makes the raids under the second Trump administration different in terms of their economic impact?
Right. So in a past paper that I put out earlier this spring, we analyzed how is ICE activity different in this Trump administration compared to the first Trump administration, and also just the last 10 years overall in terms of immigration enforcement. And so in terms of the number of people who are arrested who have a criminal conviction, that's at the lowest it's ever been in the modern era. So we're at about 1 in 3 people who are arrested by ICE have a criminal conviction, compared to close to 80 to 90% in, for example, the Obama administration when the last mass deportation campaign happened. So when It feels to the immigrant community that anybody could be arrested regardless of their criminal background. That causes a lot more fear in the community and a lot more people staying home from work as a result because it feels like anyone could be picked up at any time by ICE.
A White House representative responded to your research. They told the Washington Post, quote, "There's no shortage of American minds and hands to grow our labor force, and President Trump's agenda to create jobs for American workers represents this administration's commitment to capitalizing on that untapped potential while delivering on our mandate to enforce our immigration laws," end quote. What is your response to that?
My response is that I'm not particularly surprised that that's what they said, because that's what they have been saying since before Trump took office, even the first time, but also the second time. But I also think it is just factually incorrect. We have shown now in 2025 that that is not the case, but I have also shown in my past work that mass deportations in the 2010s did not create more job opportunities for US-born workers. And then you can go back even further, which some of my friends in the profession have also done, and studied mass deportations in the 1930s and shown the same thing.
This round of ICE enforcement has been going on for a little over a year. And I wonder if some of the effects you see might become more positive over time. What is the likelihood that we're in some kind of adjustment phase and that a couple of years from now, employers who had staff arrested or deported will hire more American workers once things kind of shake out?
Right. It's a good question. Right now we're only able to look at the first year or so of the second Trump administration. So in order to answer this question, we do have to turn back to what we have seen in the past when we've tried other mass deportation campaigns. And there we have seen no evidence that these short run negative effects rebound and turn to positive in the longer run. We see that multiple years after mass deportations, the economy and the labor market is still weaker as a result.
Let's say someone at the White House emailed you or called you up and said, the Trump administration is still going to pursue arrests and deportations, but tell us how to do that while having a more positive effect on jobs for U.S. citizens. What would you tell them based on your research?
One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot with this research and my past research on mass deportations is that nobody is happy with the state of undocumented immigration in the US, including undocumented immigrants themselves, because it's a really precarious position to be in. But our work shows really clearly that removing undocumented workers is not going to be beneficial for the labor market or for US-born workers, and is not a path forward to solving the undocumented immigration issue if we want to, at the same time, be supporting the labor market and be supporting US-born workers.
Chloe East is an economist with CU Boulder. She looked at the economic impact of ICE raids under the second Trump administration. Find a link to more about her research in our show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.